Seoul at night is a city that never sleeps. Neon signs pulse with energy, billboards tower with promises of fame, and every corner carries the rhythm of ambition. But beneath the dazzling skyline lies a world few dare to see, a world where fortune and pressure collide. It is here, in the heart of this city, that the story of one of the world's most famous performers takes a darker turn. A story that begins with bright lights, and ends in shadows. Millions around the world still remember that night. The flashing lights, the roaring crowd, and a single silhouette commanding the stage. A man whose dance steps became a global language, whose music broke barriers no one thought possible. With one viral song, he wasn't just a singer, he became a symbol of modern Korea. But behind the cheers and blinding stage lights, the performer carried a weight heavier than any choreography. The microphone became his crown. Every note, every laugh, every movement fed into a machine that demanded more songs, more energy, more perfection. Yet, what fans saw as effortless was far from reality. The shine of that golden microphone hid a silent struggle, one that fame itself was fueling. The higher the pedestal, the greater the fall when the cracks began to show. The journey to fame was breathtaking. From small stages in Seoul to fireworks lighting up stadium skies, every bow symbolized not just gratitude, but survival. Each time he bent forward, it was as if he was shouldering the expectations of millions. The pressure to always smile, to always shine, to always remain larger than life, it was relentless. And while the world celebrated his success, few wondered about the cost. Magazines couldn't get enough. Headlines screamed his name, photographs captured every angle, and the blurred faces of other idols hinted at a new era, one star dominating them all. He wasn't just a musician anymore. He was a global phenomenon. But fame on this scale doesn't come with a manual. Every cover story praised him, but every word printed also built an invisible cage. A cage from which there was no easy escape. And then came the wealth, fast, overwhelming, and impossible to ignore. Endorsements, sold-out tours, streams in the billions. It rained down on him like confetti after a final encore. Yet money, as dazzling as it looks under stage lights, often comes with hidden chains. The higher the bank accounts grew, the more powerful the demands became. And when the music stopped, silence revealed the truth: money cannot buy peace, and it cannot erase pain. In the dim corridors of Seoul's hospitals, whispers began to surface. Nurses spoke in hushed tones, doctors looked away, and files seemed to vanish without explanation. The air was thick with secrecy, as if the walls themselves held forbidden knowledge. Somewhere between the cold fluorescent lights and the empty hospital beds, a darker truth was waiting. A truth that would link one of the world's brightest stars to the quiet, sterile silence of these halls. Behind a closed office door, another story unfolded. A weary doctor sat hunched at his desk, pen scratching across prescription forms that blurred into one another. These weren't the routine checkups of everyday patients. These were special requests, signed off quietly, hidden carefully. Papers that should have represented healing began to represent something far more dangerous: an escape. Pills meant to treat illness were being written out for something else entirely: survival under the crushing weight of fame. Small bottles, unmarked, exchanged in silence. To most, they looked harmless, just another prescription. But to those who understood, they were something far more sinister: lifelines in plastic containers. Passed discreetly from hand to hand, these pills offered temporary relief, a fragile mask against exhaustion and pressure. Yet, every pill swallowed was another step deeper into a hidden world. A world where health was sacrificed for performance, and dependency quietly grew in the shadows. The illusion couldn't last forever. One night, the flashing red and blue lights shattered the calm outside a major hospital. Officers poured in, their footsteps echoing through sterile hallways. The questions they carried weren't simple. They weren't just investigating patients, they were investigating power, influence, and a scandal too large to contain. In that moment, the world of entertainment collided head-on with the force of law. Detectives worked methodically, their hands gripping folders thick with evidence. Silhouettes of men and women who had uncovered more than they bargained for. In clear plastic bags lay papers, bottles, and signatures, each piece a fragment of a puzzle that pointed to something larger than one man. This wasn't just about a single prescription. It was about a system that allowed fame to bend the rules of medicine, and the people willing to play along. One file stood out, a prescription, ripped in half, its pieces carefully bagged as evidence. It symbolized more than just fraud, it was a crack in the carefully polished surface of stardom. Torn paper that spoke of broken trust, blurred ethics, and a career that had always seemed untouchable. For fans, it would be the first visible sign that their idol's empire was not indestructible. For investigators, it was proof that the story was no longer just rumor, it was reality. When the first headlines broke, the world stopped. Outside press halls, fans gathered in disbelief, their phones raised like shields against the truth they didn't want to face. Some cried openly, others demanded answers, while many simply stood frozen, unable to reconcile the man they idolized with the scandal now unfolding. For years, they had sung his songs, cheered his name, and carried his image in their hearts. Now, they were left with questions that no performance could ever answer. The scandal didn't stay in newspapers, it exploded across screens. Social media became a battlefield, hashtags trending in seconds, opinions colliding in real time. Some defended him, insisting it was all lies. Others condemned him, demanding accountability. Headlines flashed across digital walls faster than anyone could keep up, each update feeding the frenzy. In the age of instant information, silence was no longer an option. The world wasn't just watching, it was judging. On the streets, a symbolic transformation began. Posters once plastered proudly were torn from walls. Merchandise once treasured was thrown away. It wasn't just paper being ripped, it was trust, shattered in real time. The same hands that once held banners of love now clenched in betrayal. For fans, the fall of their idol wasn't just his loss, it was theirs too. The image they believed in was crumbling, and with it, part of themselves. And then, the silence broke. Under a single spotlight, he appeared, not as the star the world knew, but as a shadow of himself. His head bowed low, a gesture heavy with centuries of cultural meaning. This was not a performance. This was an admission, a plea for forgiveness spoken not in words but in posture. In that moment, the cheers of concerts were replaced by the deafening quiet of accountability. The man who once stood tall now stood humbled. Later, a letter surfaced, handwritten, ink smudged, paper wrinkled. It wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect, but it was raw. Words of regret filled the page, promises of change written between the lines. But to many, it came too late. Apologies on paper can never fully erase actions carved into memory. Still, in the trembling handwriting and uneven sentences, there was a glimpse of a man not as an idol, but as a human being, flawed, vulnerable, desperate to be heard. The world watched as he stepped in front of cameras, microphones crowding the table like vultures circling prey. His voice, once powerful enough to unite millions, trembled as he faced the press. Every pause, every sigh, was dissected, replayed, judged. To some, it was sincerity. To others, it was performance. But one truth remained, the global star had fallen, and no apology, no matter how carefully spoken, could restore the innocence that had been lost. The courtroom became the stage no one wanted to see. Judges sat in silence, lawyers shuffled thick files, and the audience waited for a verdict that could change everything. No music, no lights, only the sterile language of law. Here, fame held no power. Every word spoken cut deeper than headlines, every testimony peeled back another layer of secrecy. The star who once commanded global arenas now stood in the shadows of justice, powerless, awaiting judgment. The case was no longer just about one man. It became a symbol, a balancing act between the demands of fame and the rules of society. On one side, pills, secrecy, and survival. On the other, integrity, law, and truth. The scales trembled as the world watched, questioning what price fame was truly worth. Could the weight of an empire ever justify bending the rules meant to protect? Or had the pursuit of stardom finally tipped the balance too far? The loudest silence is not in a courtroom, it's in an empty stadium. Once filled with fans chanting his name, now the seats stood abandoned, a haunting reminder of what was lost. No cheers, no music, no encore. Just echoes of a time when he was unstoppable, now replaced by the quiet reality of downfall. Fame can fill arenas, but scandal empties them faster than any song can bring them back. This story was never just about one artist. It became a mirror reflecting the hidden struggles of an entire industry. Behind every smile on stage, every perfect performance, lies a human being carrying unseen weight. For idols, perfection is not a choice, it's a demand. And when the lights go off, many are left battling pressures that fans may never see. His scandal was not an isolated fall, it was a warning about the cost of chasing perfection. As the scandal deepened, the entire city seemed to hold its breath. Seoul, once glowing with the promise of global stardom, now flickered with uncertainty. Questions spread beyond music, into politics, healthcare, and culture. How far could Korea's obsession with image and success push its brightest stars before they burned out? The answers weren't clear, but the darkness settling over the skyline suggested a reckoning was near. In the end, the spotlight returned, but it no longer shone on a man. Instead, it illuminated an empty microphone, standing alone in silence. A symbol of everything lost, the voice that once shook the world, the career that once defined an era, and the trust that could never be rebuilt. His story was not just about music or scandal, it was about the fragile line between glory and destruction. And as the world watched that empty stage, one truth remained clear: fame can make legends, but it can also break them. Stories like this remind us how fragile fame can be. What do you think? Was this downfall inevitable, or could it have been prevented? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want more untold scandals behind the spotlight, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss what's coming next.